Bastish B for 64K and welcome to vlog number 30. These are all the videos I got coming to my YouTube channel in October. So I hope you enjoy all those videos, a lot of cool ones coming up there. So let's jump on over and do some channel updates, give you some information about upcoming projects and stuff, and also we'll get to that Q&A session. So first I'll tell you about a few new series I've got planned. The first one is called The Games Room. As you can see, things look a little bit sparse in this room. It's because I've moved recently and I'm busy setting everything up. I've got a video series dedicated to that. It's going to be called The Games Room. There'll be a few phases to this series. The first one will be under construction, setting everything up. I'll show you everything I've done and why I've done it and how I've done it and some details on that. The next step will be obviously the full game room tour, and then the final stage of that series will be kind of individual sections. You'll be able to, I'll go through like the games room and do like really detailed videos on each little section, because I always find that when I watch game room tours, they're pretty fun to watch, but then the person usually glosses over the section that I'm the most interested in, and it's kind of like, I wish you could have shown that a little bit more. So it's going to be dedicated to each area, so you'll get to see everything and we'll go through everything in detail. So that's a new series that starts this month in October. Another new series I'm going to introduce in a couple months time is going to be like an import only kind of series, talking about import games from Japan. It's going to be exclusive to just Japanese releases. It's going to cover games that are playable by English speakers that were exclusive to Japan only or never got an English translation. So you're going to see systems covered like the Super Famicom and Saturn and stuff like that. Systems that I never seem to get enough time to kind of cover, that I really love. So going to have a whole series dedicated to that as well. And the next thing I wanted to mention is collaborations and interviews. I've been running this channel solely by myself since the beginning without any help whatsoever. I've decided to kind of reach out to a couple people to see whether they wanted to do interviews for the channel for different episodes. People that I'm interested in, I'm sure you are too. I don't want to mention who yet because the videos are going to be up and coming, and to my surprise they agreed. So I've got a couple of cool interviews about some Commodore 64 related guys that you'll see in future videos, so that was pretty cool. And also I've teamed up with another YouTuber for a couple episodes of my Shoot 'em Up Decade series, so you'll see those in the next month or so. October has one of the episodes and there'll be another one in December. So this is kind of a learning experience. It's been pretty fun so far. It gives the channel a little bit more authenticity, if you know what I mean. It's like, you know, I'm talking to actual other people, and it's interesting. The channel's obviously still going to be run by me 100%, and I'll be reaching out whenever possible to people for interviews. If they agree, awesome. If they don't, no big deal. So I hope you enjoy these upcoming videos. So the next thing I wanted to mention is the move. I moved to a new place, a new house. It's like a 3-level duplex, and I've got my own basement so I can set up my games room and everything to exactly what I've always wanted, finally, after all these years. So it's pretty exciting. The reason I wanted to mention this is because during that move it took away about a month and a half from me actually editing any videos whatsoever or creating anything. So I've kind of, I'm basically making videos a couple of weeks now just before they come out. I know a lot of YouTubers make videos like the day before they release them or something like that. That's just not my style. I plan out things and have videos done weeks and weeks or months in advance, and schedule things and plan it properly. So I've lost all that planning time, which means basically is that I cannot do any like massive documentaries anytime soon until I've widened the gap between me making videos and releasing them, because those take a lot of time, like a ridiculous amount of time, and this isn't my full-time job, this is just a hobby. You know, I have to widen the gap again, and once that gap widens enough that I've got enough time between releasing videos and making them, then I can dive back into some really big meaty videos. Got a couple planned, but you know, can't really do anything about that now. I'm kind of just, I'm a couple weeks ahead only now, so I'm just kind of making cutoffs, you know, that I feel comfortable with anyway. And so I'll get back into the big videos, but for now there's still tons of awesome content coming, and you know, medium level kind of videos, like, you know, 10 to 15 minute kind of ones, and we'll get to those big chunky documentaries again, hopefully in a month or two. Okay, so I've just moved somewhere more comfortable. This is my couch, and I'll start answering some of these questions. I put these questions out on my social media, all the accounts, to see what, you know, questions people are interested in asking and stuff like that. I wasn't expecting such a massive response, so I've narrowed it down to about 11 questions here. I know that's a lot. I'm going to try and go through them quickly, but also answer them properly. There were a couple that had similar themes, so I kind of chose one or the other, but everything will be answered. Anybody that asks a question, it's all here, so let's get on with it. So the first question was asked by Funko Jim Jam. This was on Instagram, and the question is, why do you like C64 games so much, and what draws you to it? So obviously nostalgia is a massive factor when it comes to playing C64 games. Anybody that owned one back in the day will obviously have a massive nostalgia spot for it. It's the same as anybody that owned a Super Nintendo or an NES or Sega Mega Drive. In those eras, those will be your nostalgia, and you'll look back on it very fondly. So it's the same for me. Nostalgia is definitely number one. But these games I enjoyed, and I enjoyed a lot, and I just really loved them. The biggest draw for the C64 for me, as far as games are concerned, is just the massive variety of games. I don't think there's any computer or system out there that has as many games and as many variety of games. I mean, the Commodore 64 is still adding genres to it even as we speak. I mean, like a year or two ago there was a game, Run Demon Run, that added basically, you know, endless runners to the C64. I mean, there were one or two before that, newer ones, but that's just an example of genres are still being added to the C64, newer genres. The amount of genres it has already available is insane. You can play any type of game ever made almost, in different styles. It's such a system with such variety, and I feel like, especially sound wise, it was way ahead of its time. The sound is still better than a lot of most retro systems I've ever played. The sound just blows it away, and I love the graphics styles, you know, everything. I love the Commodore 64, so that's basically what I'm saying. And the next question is from Dan Makuman from Twitter, and he asks, is there a possibility that you can make a video for C64 newbies, maybe people who have never played the system, even a list of games to start? So yeah, I've had this question before, a long time ago. It's kind of really difficult to make something like that. What angle do you go from? Do I show you original hardware, or do I show you more modern ways to, you know, play C64 stuff? If I would suggest somebody to get into the Commodore 64 scene for the first time, if you wanted to get into it right now, I would highly recommend not getting original hardware. I know that sounds terrible, but just due to the practicality of it, the price of it, the reliability, the C64s themselves as a computer are super reliable. Some of the stuff surrounding it, like disk drives and old tape drives, discs that are like 20 or 30 years old at this point, those are not as reliable. So there could be a lot of heartache involved, a lot of money spent and a lot of heartache, and just learning how to even just load a game is like, if you've never even seen this computer or turned it on before, is a lot of information to convey. I do have a couple of how-to episodes for original C64 hardware, how to load tape and disc games. There's separate videos for that, so you can check those out for basic information. I think if I did make a video about that, it would probably involve using modern ways to play C64 games now, which are a lot more simplistic, but are still giving you that C64 experience, you know, suggesting like the C64 Maxi, C64 Mini or VAST. Those are probably the best ways just to play games if you just wanted to jump in and see what the system is all about. Making a list of games though is something that seems very practical to do. I would probably make a top 10 or maybe a top 20 and make a variety of games like covering a lot of the C64's major genres, which is pretty much anything, but covering those genres and choosing games that are easy to get into, that require virtually no instructions. I think that's what that list would probably look like. So I think that's actually a very good idea. That would help you get into it. And then I would highly suggest though using modern kind of ways of loading and playing C64 games as opposed to using original hardware. If you're an old school and you grew up with the C64, then loading and playing and using a real 64 is a must. I've got a real 64, I've got multiple ones, so I mess around with that all the time. For videos and that though, I would use you know, C64 Maxi or VAST to record stuff. That's obviously just practical, but yeah, that'll be something I'll definitely look at. And the next question is from Chad Taylor from Facebook. He says, what is your favorite game genre to play on the C64 and what specific games within that genre? Okay, so like I've said before, I play everything. There's almost no genre I don't like. Puzzle games I've mentioned, I'm not a huge fan of those, although I have played that Boxy Moxie recently and I was proved wrong that puzzle games can actually be fun. But most genres, pretty much any genre I love, so narrowing it down, I would definitely say just personally the two genres that I put the most amount of time into back in the day, and even still now when I get the chance anyway, is RPGs and simulators. Those are the ones I like the most. I felt they gave like a lot of depth. I love the diving into a game and with a big old instruction manual and just getting stuck in there and playing it for hours and coming back to it and continuing your game. That's the kind of thing I love. So RPG wise, definitely Ultima 4 and 5. Absolutely loved those. Played them for hours and hours. Wasteland, can add that to the pile. Check out my RPG top 10 if you want to see more on that. Another genre obviously is simulators, and I'm not only talking about flight simulators, I'm just talking about simulators in general. So my favorites would definitely be Project Stealth Fighter by Microprose and Red Storm Rising by Microprose. That's a submarine simulator. Those I just played endlessly. I can't even tell you how much time I spent on them. Also like the simulators that are a little bit more arcadey as well, like the games made by Accolade, you know, like Ace of Aces and The Train and stuff like that. So simulators and RPGs were definitely my personal favorites. So this next question is from Denny. This was posted on YouTube. What do you think in the massive resurgence back to retro gaming of late? I think it's pretty cool, obviously. So, you know, people going back and looking at the old stuff and getting all excited about it, that always like, you know, warms my heart. You know, especially people that never got an opportunity to play certain systems, going back and just discovering them for the first time. Even retro games, it doesn't matter, like some games may not look that good, but if you actually give it a chance and play it, you can obviously find gameplay is the key. And if gameplay is still good, people can still enjoy these games. My daughter is 4 years old and she loves playing retro games. Like, she doesn't even like see the whole, you know, the graphic aspect of it, which is I think is pretty cool. So kids love retro gaming. Well, any kid loves retro gaming, but the resurgence back is cool. I mean, the negatives are that it boosts prices for us classic gamers that collect games like that, you know, so it's kind of like, you know, but I think the good far outweighs anything else. The only thing negative about, you know, resurgence in retro gaming is people that are just collecting, hoarding games just because it's the cool thing to do. That kind of, you know, that's obviously, that annoys me. But, you know, like buying games and then not playing them, just putting them on shelves, I really don't like that. Everything I buy because I want to play it and will play it and have played it, or at least planning on playing it. It's something I want to play. I've never bought a game because it's expensive or it's rare. That is completely nonsense to me. Or bought it because it's sealed. Who cares? The first thing I do with a sealed game is I open it. I'm not collecting it for some sort of crazy like resale value. There's a lot of positive and negatives. Another positive thing is that, you know, a lot of like indie games are looking back on retro games, especially style-wise. So like, you know, playing some of these games is pretty fun for us veterans because, you know, it kind of feels, it looks like your old kind of games, but you know, it feels like a modern game. I like the mix of those two things. Sometimes I feel it's a little bit overused. You know, every indie developer out there now is like trying to do like some sort of retro look of a game. It's a little bit too much sometimes, you know, just calm down, you know, spread it out a bit. But overall, it's a big positive. And the next question is from Jeremy Amiet. I hope I said that right, Jeremy. This is from Facebook. He says, what do you like best about the Commodore 64 and what inspired you to make your YouTube channel about it? So what I like the most, I've already answered that kind of in the first question, you know, just the massive variety of games and that kind of thing. But what inspired you to do the YouTube channel? So I don't want to make this sound like, you know, pompous or anything, but a couple of years ago when I started this channel, I kind of got back into the Commodore 64 scene. I set up my Commodore again, I was playing old games, I was really enjoying myself, and then I went on YouTube to find videos, you know, about old games I wanted to watch and, you know, be nostalgic about, and every time I searched, I found videos that were just kind of rubbish, to be honest. I don't know how else to put it. I'm not saying there's no good Commodore 64 content out there. That is ridiculous. There's obviously tons. I personally just didn't find any when I was looking, and I was finding just lots of like just, you know, people just recording a chunk of gameplay and just uploading it without any context. Just a chunk of gameplay, not even like a good piece of gameplay, you know, guy just dying like 60 times for like 35 minutes. And I was just like, every time I looked for a game, I was finding stuff like that. And for me personally, you know, if I want to watch a video about a game, I want, you know, some sort of like story. I want, you know, a little bit of production value. I want context, you know, just a few simple things. And when I was watching these videos, I was like I actually got really annoyed, especially like some of my favorite games. I couldn't find any good videos about them. And the more I looked, the more annoyed I actually got. So then I just said to my wife, I'm starting a YouTube channel. It's about Commodore 64. I'm gonna make some cool videos. And that was basically it. There was nothing else more to it. And I already have editing experience. I used to make my own movies, like, you know, fun movies on the side, you know, little fun things with friends. So I really knew like editing. I had to obviously buy new editing software and learn all that first. Also, I made about 2 months worth of videos before I started uploading them to YouTube to give myself this massive gap, which I talked about earlier. That gap is 0 right now because of the move and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to build that gap again so I can spend more time on certain videos and make better videos, really. So that's actually the reason why. It was just out of pure frustration for, you know, just trying to find some C64 videos with context. That's really what it all came down to. Like I said, I'm not saying there's no good C64 content out there. There obviously is. There's lots. Just when I was looking a few years ago, I just couldn't find anything that I was, you know, that I was looking for anyway. And question number 6, this is from Twitter, from They Tore It Down. So he asked, hey, as a Brit, I appreciate the many UK games and magazines that you review. Will you be covering any more UK publishers like Elite or Analog? Cheers. So definitely, I grew up on the British, kind of European gaming scene. So that's near and dear to my heart. So that's why you've seen a lot of, UK based content. That's just the stuff that I love. I had a PAL system, Commodore 64 as a kid, so I got all those kind of games, the companies like Elite and Analog and all those were kind of like just common kind of companies for me, software developers. Yes, Elite is already on my list of big publishers to cover, so we'll definitely be seeing that in the future. Analog as well, I like all their knockoff games. That will be a fun publisher to check out as well. I don't know much about them at all, to be honest, besides the games, so that makes it interesting for me to do the research. And that is one of the things about making this YouTube channel, which kind of ties into the previous question. There's a lot of the companies that I focus on when I do the documentaries, or companies I personally know a little bit about, but not a massive amount of information. It's always the games. I always know the games because I played so many. But I always focus on companies that I maybe don't know a huge amount of information about. So it makes it interesting for me, and if it makes it interesting for me, then it probably makes it interesting for you. So that's why I choose the companies based on how much I know about them, to be honest. So Elite, I know a little bit about Elite and their history, but not a lot. I know their games, obviously. Analog, I know nothing about their personal history, which is awesome, besides that they're a UK company. I know a lot of their games, obviously. I played tons of them, all those great knockoff games. So to answer your question, lots more UK based content coming. And we got another question here from YouTube. This is from BitToxic. When are you going to cover the Roland brothers? Okay, so I was actually going to do them quite a while ago, and I did a search for information about them, because you need to make a story when you make something about people or a company. You have to have a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And at least for me, for making a video, people can make them however they want, but for me it has to have a full arc. And so I found it really difficult to find any information about the Roland brothers to form a story. That's why I kind of put it off to the side. And I did find a decent amount of information, but not as much as I would like. Like I said, I need a story and I need a lot of context. That's what I like when I watch a video. So the Roland brothers are definitely guys I want to cover in the future. I just need to find the right information, and when I do, I will make it. It is on my list. I was going to do a One Man and His Machine, although it will probably, that episode will be a special one called Two Men and Their Machines. If you don't know who the Roland brothers are, they did C64 classics like Retrograde and Creatures 1 and 2 and Mayhem and Monsterland and very cool games like that. Okay, so question number 8. This is multiple parts to this question. This is from Mark McRae. This is on YouTube. So what is your favorite C64 release of 2020 so far? Which of your playlists do you enjoy making videos for the most? How do you record the tunes for your Wired for Sound series? They always sound so great, usually full-length tracks. Okay, so let's start at the beginning here. My favorite C64 game of 2020 so far, I would probably say Shadow over Hawksmill is probably my favorite so far. The year is not over. There's a lot of cool games I've played this year, a lot, and there may be some really great ones coming up pretty soon that I know about. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Anyway, that one, check that out. It's super cool. I will be doing a top 10 2020 video of the best C64 games that I love, like I did last year. This will be in December, so look out for that. Top 10, it'll be all my favorites of the new games of 2020. And the next one was, which playlist do you like making videos for the most? I really enjoy making for all of them. When I don't enjoy making a video for a certain playlist, I usually put it aside and I don't make any videos for it for a while. And then I eventually, get the enthusiasm or spark for it again, I feel like making a video, then it jumps back into rotation. That's why I like to make a lot of different series, because, you know, sometimes your mood is not, you're not in the mood to make an episode of, say, new retro, but you're in the mood to make something else. And that's why I've created so many series. I don't like to do the same kind of video all the time. I like it to be a little bit different style, different intros, slightly different feel to each thing. So, you know, I don't like just watching, my personal favorite YouTube channels are ones that have variety. You know, I'm not really a person that watches YouTube channels where it's just like a dude sitting on a couch and every episode is just a dude sitting on a couch talking to the camera. I know a lot of people like those kind of videos. It's just not my kind of thing. I just like, you know, I like variety. So to say which playlist I like making for the best, it's hard to say, but at the moment I'm really enjoying making episodes of New Retro, so I'd say that's probably my favorite right now. And how do you record your music for the Wired for Sound series? You know, usually sounds great and usually full-length tracks. I don't have video capture that can capture AV connections. Everything I've upgraded to HDMI at this point because that's just practical for how I run the channel. So I don't capture from a real C64. That would be a nightmare anyway, just in terms of loading times and just everything. I just don't have the time to do that kind of thing. It's just impractical for the channel. I would never make a video, it'll take too long. So I record the audio from a C64 Maxi, VAS, or VAS, it depends. VAS is really good because you can actually change the SID sound to get it to sound exactly the way you remember. Everything I cover is games I've played a lot back in the day, so I know what they sound like, so I try to get it to sound almost exactly like it was. The C64 Maxi is hit and miss when it comes to sound. It's usually pretty good, to be honest. There's certain things that sounds a little bit weird, and then I use VAS. And VAS, like I said, you can manipulate it, change the SID chips and all that, and get it to sound at least how I remember it. And the way I record it is I record it as a video file. Like, you know, if it's a loading tune, I just load the game and I'm recording it as a video file. And then I import that video file into my editor, my editing software, and I split the audio from the video, and then I make the video. So it's done that way. I do that the same for VAS, you know, record it as a video and then I split it. If there's something specific that I cannot record, which there are instances where there's a track, maybe the ending track or track far into a game, or it's a game where it has sound effects automatically over the music and you cannot record it in any logical way, then I go to this website. I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now. I'll leave a link in the description. It's kind of a community soundtrack website where people just upload soundtracks for everybody to listen to and download. So it's really a community-based soundtrack site, I guess. And I'll leave a link in the description. You can check it out. They have thousands and thousands and thousands of tracks and soundtracks. I go there and I'll download, you know, a track I want and use that in the video. That's the other way, but I prefer to obviously try to record it myself. That's step number one. That's the secondary step. And question number 9 here is from Wahid Khan from YouTube, and he asks, is Bastish B your real name, and which country are you based in? So definitely not, it's not my real name. This was kind of a nickname I got when I was doing a video technology course in the 1994, 95, 96 period, and I just got this nickname. My real name's Brendan, so Bastish B, the B is for, you know, Brendan. But Bastish, it actually comes from a comic book series called Lobo, that one there. I read that, it was my favorite comic book in the 90s, and whenever me and my friends used to go hunting for comic books and video games, I always used to pick up Lobo because I just loved it. And the character in there, Lobo, he used to call everybody a Bastish, which was basically DC Comics' way of getting around cursing. I think Basdish basically mean bastard. That's as close as I can figure out. I'm not sure if the character still uses that. I haven't read Lobo in like 20 years. I read it so much in the 90s, and I just kind of moved on to other characters, but my friends started calling me Basdish because I read Lobo so much, and then that just morphed into Basdish B, and that's what I decided to use for the YouTube channel. It's just kind of fun. And the other question is, you said, what country am I based in? I currently live in Canada, but I'm not originally from Canada. I've mentioned this before, but you know, there's been a lot of other people that have obviously subscribed now and don't know the story. I'm originally from South Africa, so now I live in Canada. I moved here in the late 90s, so that's, if you're confused with the accent, which 99% people are, you know, it's a combination of both. It's a Canadian South African accent, which nobody ever gets right, but that's where that mutation comes from, so I apologize if you don't understand what I'm talking about. And we're on to the last two questions. This one is from Riggs Solo. This was posted on Twitter. He asked, what do you think makes the C64 stand out from the rest of the 8-bit crowd? Well, it's definitely the sound. The sound puts it head and shoulders above any 8-bit system. Actually, it eclipses most. Personally, I would say it eclipses 16-bit consoles as well as far as sound goes. I know that's a bold statement, but that's just my personal opinion. If you don't agree with that, no big deal. But the sound chip is phenomenal. Even if a C64 game is bad, you're going to get some cool music. That's almost a guarantee. Unless you're talking about maybe the early games from like 83, maybe 84, you get some really like horrible sounding games, but that was just when the system first came out. If you look at the first games made for any system, you know, launch games, they always like pale in comparison to what the system is capable of like a little bit later. So anyway, sound wise, definitely. I also think the variety, like I mentioned earlier, the variety of games is insane. And even the games that are still like genres still being added, I think the C64 is amazing, and I think that's why, for me personally, it stands well above the other 8-bit stuff. And the final question, this one just scraped in. I just saw it just before I started filming here. I've had to cut off anything else, you know, anything else that comes after this. I had to not answer in here, but I'll answer them, you know, on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, wherever they're posted. So this one comes from KF Lim, and he asks, what are your favorite co-op games on the C64? So I almost thought of like a completely different answer for this, but then I read it like specifically, and you said co-op games. Those are definitely games that aren't just two-player games. There's a lot of two-player games, but games where you're actually helping each other. So there's a big difference, and obviously Bruce Lee is one of my favorite co-op games. You can play that on 2-player, and one person is Bruce Lee and one's the Green Yamo, who we affectionately used to call the Fat Buddha. Anyway, that is a fantastic co-op game. One guy has to like beat up the ninja while Bruce, the other guy, is collecting lanterns. You're kind of helping each other. It's pretty fun until you punch your friend accidentally by mistake, and then it becomes, you know, Smash Brothers Melee or whatever. So that's an awesome co-op game. Another Datasoft game that's great for co-op is The Goonies. Just solving all the little puzzles with your friend is super cool. And another game that is a co-op masterpiece as far as I'm concerned, and it's a game that virtually nobody would ever think of is a co-op game, is a game called Catechus by Rainbow Arts. It's a shoot 'em up. It's excellent. Me and my friend mastered it as a co-op game. One person is the spaceship, and the other person can actually take control of the immortal drone that can fly around your ship, and it can attach to your ship at the front or back or wherever. And That game is brilliant, a brilliant co-op game if you can learn how to master it. I used to fly the ship and my friend used to fly the drone, and we used to know the patterns of every single thing coming. So he would go into position and I would go into position, we'd shoot the things, then he would dock at the back of me for the stuff that comes at the back. We would know every single pattern of everything would come from. That game was a really cool co-op experience. If you've never tried that co-op and you want to try something like that, check out Catechus. It's a little bit hard playing in co-op, but once you get into the flow of it, it's absolutely brilliant. And that's it. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Everybody that's still awake, I applaud you. I know this episode is pretty long. I've never made a vlog that's this long, but thank you anyway. I thank everybody that contributed questions on all my social media. So if you want to check me out, besides YouTube, I've got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon. You can check all of that out. If you're on Patreon, you get early access to videos. I'll post the videos as I'm finished making them, so you get them weeks and even months before they even get released. And I also post updates on what's happening on the channel in Patreon, so you can join that for like the low price of $2 a month. If you're interested, check that out. And that about wraps up this vlog. Thanks for joining me, Bastish B at 64K. I hope you had a good time. If you can like and subscribe, that'll be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.